January the 16th at 7 p.m. First item on our agenda is our prayer and pledge. Those who would please stand. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all your many blessings of life, Lord. We ask you to be with this board as we make the decisions for our city. We ask that those decisions will be in the best interest of all the citizens. Lord, we ask you to be with all the sick in our community, and we ask you to forgive us for our sins. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item this evening is the approval of the agenda. We have one change that we need to make on 7A under old business. It is discuss and or take action on including the removal of the second reading of ordinance number 821, Bill 2013-26, and recycle the process in its entirety beginning at the Planning Commission meeting in February to preserve the integrity of the rezoning process due to notification errors made by the city. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda passes. Next item is citizens' comments. First on the list this evening is Donna Brooks. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Donna Brooks. I live on Chester Road. And because I'm so nervous, I want to just read what I want to say. Let me begin by stating, even though I have lived here 22 years, I am very much an outsider. I do not know anyone on the board, and to my knowledge, only know one person that works for the city. This is not about anyone's competence or integrity. It is about appearances. What transpired in the last few months has the appearance of the good old boys being alive and well in Fairview. It started with the inappropriate timing of the hiring of the interim city manager. Mr. Johnson proposed hiring Mr. Hall immediately upon receiving Mr. Hyatt's resignation. Had he waited until the next session, you could have given him the benefit of the doubt. To have a solution ready for an unexpected resignation had the appearance of a sunshine violation. Then when several more employees left, the vision of a coup by the old guard came to mind. This led to the mayor's comments about the hiring practices, which I took as being directed at the process, not the people involved. All the commissioners took it personally, which I really didn't understand. In a couple of weeks, appearing to come out of the blue, there was a problem with a major subdivision of 4 houses not going before the Planning Commission in 2011. It just happened to be built by the mayor's husband. He had the plat approved, inspected, and received certificates of occupancy, all from officials of the city. I don't know any of the rules and regulations, but a reasonable person would believe he did what he was supposed to do. The commissioners think because he has been a builder here, he knew he had to go before the Planning Commission. If he has been building 30 to 40 house subdivisions, I could see where he might believe the rules would be different for a 4-house subdivision. What makes this look worse is the city has plenty of culpability. It could have been handled in a much less spectacular way. First, the facts should have been gathered before any of it started. Even after 2 meetings, no one seemed to have the facts. The mayor was asked to answer a hypothetical question to make everyone feel better about her involvement. No manager in their right mind would have answered the question. I would think it should have gone to the Planning Commission to see what the violations and solutions are, all before the 2 meetings thus far. Then processes should be put in place to prevent this from happening again before we lose more good people. I certainly hope we hire an unbiased investigator for the city's sake. I hope none of this is because the mayor is a woman, and I hope the citizens of Fairview take a more active role in their government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bobby Cothran.
Hey, I'm Bobby Cothran. I live on Horntavern Road, and I had a few things to say, but to rebuttal that, I'm glad everybody done what happened last time, because on my road, a lot of people don't know that a piece of property came up for sale back in the summer and was listed by the mayor. And within a matter of a day or so, it was taken back off the market. Within a matter of a month or two, there was bulldozers on that property. Now, a lot of people might have seen what happened at the last meeting, but I think all that collaborates with what's going on here. And I'm really hoping, there's 3 of y'all probably support it, and many people, my friends, support it. I think it's come a time where y'all gonna have to really take charge of this situation, because on one end of our road, we've got Habitat houses, and now they're talking about building HUD houses. So I'm hoping at some point in time, whether it's a good old boy network or not, I think some people's been appointed because they've always been a function in this community and you trusted them. And I have no problem with that because I trust in y'all. So I really hope that you don't stop with this investigation. I don't care if it's biased, unbiased, or what, because I know for a fact what happened on my road. It's 600 yards from me. So I don't have to have the planning commission, I don't have to have them to say who signed what or done what. I know that what happened on my road, I see it every day and I pass it every day. So something is not right now in our community, and I really hope y'all get to the bottom of it. And I appreciate y'all's time. Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is awards and/or recognitions.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like Chief Cooper to come to the podium, please. Been letting y'all know about the bonds that we've obtained through the years. And last week it was Captain Mark Sutton. This week I'd like to recognize Chief Cooper. I'll be good.
Okay.
$695,979. He's done in his tenure with the city of Fairview, and I'd just like to recognize him. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just a quick word, all those grants and everything, my name's on the bottom of the application, but the bulk of the work and research was done by my people. Gunny, y'all know him, Jason Langford, things that, I don't take the credit for it. I signed for it, but there's the guys that really deserve the praise. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other awards or recognitions this evening? Number 5, public announcements.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Our emission testing is Monday and Tuesday of every week from 7:30 till noon, and I believe that's been received very well. A lot of people are thanking us for continuing to have that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. We have John Cherry with us here this evening with the Chamber of Commerce, and he is going to be our first 5-minute highlight that we're going to do each month. I believe he is the only person that actually put in for that. So we're going to give him 5 minutes to speak as he wishes.
Just, if I may, before we get started, congratulations to John. He was just voted by the board as the new president of the Chamber of Commerce for the city of Fairview. Congratulations, John.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Commissioner. I usually just stand up here and just start spouting off, but I've made a few notes because I know my time is limited. There are some misconceptions out there, not many, but a few, and I just want to address that really quick. Just some feedback that I've gotten from a few people that we are not a government. The Fairview Area Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit organization, and our purpose, our stated purpose, and our mission statement, I'd like to read to you. The Fairview Area Chamber of Commerce is dedicated to provide the leadership to promote a dynamic economic environment while maintaining the special qualities of living and working in the Fairview area of Williamson County. The Fairview Area Chamber of Commerce shall be nonpartisan, non-sectional, non-sectarian, and non-political in its activities. The Fairview Area Chamber of Commerce will focus on areas surrounding the city of Fairview and will seek to foster cooperation with other chambers within our region. I think we've been living up to this mission statement in this past year, and we've tried to magnify that. We are trying to set a good example for future boards. We've also increased our membership this past year. Very proud of our accomplishments. Last week, we had our first board meeting of the year of 2014, which you mentioned I was elected president, and I'm honored to serve and humbled. And we've added 4 new board members that are returning with us, excuse me, I'm looking at my notes, I apologize. And we have 1 returning, which is Nancy Stevens. The 4 new board members that we have that just were elected is Michael Branch. He will be serving as our second vice president. Tia Boner, who will be serving as our secretary. Joy Gallagher as a member at large. Ken Carger, also a member at large. Nancy Stevens, a member at large. Danae Betzer will be serving as our first vice president. Bill Taylor will be returning as our treasurer. And Jillian Walker and Jessica Cherry, both are members at large. I might add that Jessica is also the publisher of our Monday Morning Memo, and I'll speak about that in just a second. Kipling Farrell is our office manager. And I mentioned that we've increased our membership last year, which allowed us to increase our board members from 8 to 10. We're allowed to have 1 board member per 10 members. We're about at 105 now. My stated goal last year was to double our membership and get to about 200. I'd like to see that happen at the end of this year. We have a little over 400, I think, business permits in the city of Fairview with combined large and small. So I think getting half of them as members is a worthy goal. The Chamber of Commerce all across the country serve their communities with similar purposes. To promote their local businesses, to keep revenue and taxes at home, to promote tourism, to be an advocate for their business owners, and to sponsor events that promote community assets that benefit everyone. Nearly every event this chamber was involved in or organized last year brought revenue to local businesses and to the city. One of our newest accomplishments was the introduction of that Monday Morning Memo I just mentioned. We would like everybody to sign up for that. All you have to do is give us your email. You can go to our Facebook page. You can go to our website. It's fairviewchamber.org. You can also find us by that similar name on Facebook. You do not have to be a member to come to any of our events, to subscribe to our Monday Morning Memo. That's the purpose of us. We are trying to increase our membership. So we also, just to let you know, a little bit about our future. We have a breakfast coming up this coming Tuesday morning at the Hickory Home Family Restaurant at 7:30. Our Congressman, Marsha Blackburn, would be coming to speak to us to give us a legislative update. At the end of March, we'll be doing our annual Business Expo. My personal goals, and also I think our board feels the same way, is to leave this organization better than we found it. And I know they feel the rest the way I do. Our board is, we have a wonderful board, and we're all one in purpose. I appreciate you all being supportive of us and coming to our events. I know most of you have been to, just about all of you have been to our events last year, and hope to see you again this year at all of our events. We'd like to talk to you about, we would like to schedule a time to be on your agenda shortly, if we could, maybe in one of your February meetings, BOC meetings, to talk about a new idea that we have to have an event called Art in the Park, which would promote a arts and crafts show in the Bowie Nature Park. We have a wonderful asset here in Fairview that very few cities in America have. I mean, this nature park is about the size of Central Park in New York City, and we need to promote that asset and bring some tourism dollars to Fairview that would benefit our businesses and would benefit everybody. So I'd like to talk more about that later if I could get some time scheduled and tell you what ideas we have to do that. So thank you all very much for letting me be here, and we thank you again for the facilities that we have that y'all share with us. We're very grateful for that. Thank y'all. And every dollar you all invest in us comes back to you tenfold, I promise you.
John, can I ask you a question? You were there and everything. I heard you speak, did a good job at the grand opening of Walmart this week. And isn't there a special event scheduled for tomorrow that the public might want to be made aware of again?
I don't know about the one tomorrow. I know we had the ribbon cutting yesterday.
I meant Saturday.
Saturday?
Yeah.
I'm not aware of it. Nobody's made me aware of
Isn't
it.
there a family thing from 12 to 3 Saturday? Anybody know about that? There is. Just, they're going to have different things going on, and just invite everybody to come out and take advantage of it. Store's a beautiful store, so.
It's great. Yeah, it's
I know you were
amazing.
there, but
It's amazing when you
there
have
is a
that here.
special thing going on for families, Saturday from 12 to 3.
I might, just while I'm thinking about it, the United Way has made us aware that there is a organization on Old Hillsborough Road near Leapers Fork that is donating a very large greenhouse. Ron Rowe and I, Ron is on your new member of your planning commission, we went and looked at it today, took pictures of it and measured it. It's like 32 by 96. That's a very large greenhouse. They would like to donate it to Fairview High School. So we need some volunteers to look into disassembling it and bringing it out here and reassembling it. Now, the Board of Education understands, Commissioner Johnson, could you tell us a little more about that? They've got to make some decisions on whether.
Where we
place it.
stand on that right now is the high school principal, Dr. Orier, and the ag teacher are in the process of getting the school system to approve where it can be located. And they are going to have to, of course, pour a large concrete pad and then get water and electricity to it. And the city has been willing to donate some property for them to be able to house the structure on when they can get it moved. So we've decided that we can let them use either the out parcel on Dice Lampley or possibly the land that we have out on Deer Ridge Road. So we're just waiting to hear from the school board. If they're for sure going to accept it, then that's when the volunteer group definitely needs to get together so we can get it moved.
Yesterday, well, a few days ago when I heard about it, I thought I could just take a trailer over there and bring it over here in a couple of hours, but it's a big project. All right, thank you all very much. Any other questions? Thank you all.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the December 19th, 2013 public hearing. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion and second. Any corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. B is approval of the minutes of the December 19th, 2013 Board of Commissioners meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any additions or corrections? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item C is approval of the minutes of the January 2nd Board of Commissioners meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 7, old business. Item A is the bill number 2013-26, ordinance 821. It is what we are going to start the process over in, and I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I was given the task to investigate the, not anything about the purchase of the property or anything about the property per se, other than the zoning process. I did an extensive investigation with the Codes Department, and I want to say at this time that they were very forthcoming and I think very truthful with me about what had been done and regrettably what had not been done. They also gave me some reasons as to why they thought that some of these things were not done, which I will be happy to share with the city manager so that they can be discussed with the new person that will eventually be hired to take over the Codes Department. There are certain requirements in our zoning ordinance, specifically Section 16, 109, that deals with what has to happen when you have a request for a rezoning of property in the nature of, obviously the person has, someone has to make an application for rezoning and they pay a fee. That's real easy to find out. That happened in this case. But after that happens, there is a series of notifications that has to take place. They have to be done in accordance with the ordinance, and some of them are Tennessee State Code annotated that has been parroted into the ordinance, and they have to take place at times before a hearing is had, at the times before the second reading is had. Those signs have to be placed on the property. There has to be a publication sufficient for people to know that the second reading ordinance is coming up. You don't have to publish the resolution setting the ordinance per se, but you do have to publish the caption of the resolution and a summary sufficient so that people can identify the property. That in some form may have been done. I discovered in talking with codes that, to their knowledge, no signs had ever been placed on the property. The information I got was that, and I think this was very truthful from Mr. Bledsoe, he said, I'll go out and put the signs up when I was told to go out and put the signs up. One of the things that I discovered, and I think the people in there would be perfectly willing to do this, I don't believe there was any cross-training between individuals in there, so that if the person who was saying go put the signs up for whatever reason was not there, then that probably got missed. I would like to say that I don't think any of this happened. The city did not make the notifications as it's supposed to. I think this process was so flawed that, in my opinion, the only way that it can be corrected, and it can be corrected, is to send this application back to the Planning Commission for their recommendation back to the board. I would suggest that that be done at the February Planning Commission meeting, and if it is past the time for that, and I don't believe it is, to be included on their agenda, that it be request be that it be added. Can't order the Planning Commission to add it, but you can certainly request it. I think that the next codes person, and I put this out because I don't want to forget it, I want it to be in the minutes where we can find it, that there are certain things that has to happen relative to rezonings, there are certain things that have to happen relative to annexations, certain notifications has to be done, and while these are legislative functions, courts do not generally look at legislative functions, but they do look at the procedural processes that has to be done relative to notification so the public can have knowledge that these are happening. Public don't have to attend. It just has to be out there so they can have knowledge of it and attend if they so desire. I would recommend to the board that we reinstitute the rezoning process, starting with sending this, with removing from this the second and final reading, send the application back to the Planning Commission for a recommendation, and go through the whole process again and be sure that the notifications are properly posted. Now, I was asked the question, what happens if someone takes the signs off? Well, you have to put the signs out there just like you have to send out notices to the contiguous property owners. They don't have to go pick up those certified letters. The designation is it must be certified, but if they don't pick them up and they come back, you have satisfied what the ordinance and the statute says. The other thing that I would like to see when we get in addition to the cross-training, when we get a new codes director, is that when an annexation or a zoning change comes up, that an Excel spreadsheet be opened that lists those requirements that must be met for this that the city is required to do for the notifications, et cetera, and at the time that these have to be posted be on that sheet, and the time that the actual posting took place be on the sheet, and that some form of camera be used when the signs are put in place so that you can take a picture of them and file it in that file, so that if there ever is any question about that, if you put the sign up and 5 minutes later I come along and take it down, I'm sorry that happened, but you complied, you put the sign up. But at this stage, based on my investigation, I would recommend to the board that we do not have a second reading, that this application be resubmitted to the Planning Commission and come back to the board with their recommendation and be acted upon as any other request for zoning. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we go forward with the suggestion of the city attorney to return it back to the planning commission for, to go completely back over from phase one so that we can make sure that all requirements are met for the planning commission.
We have a proper motion. Is there a second?
I'd like to second that, but I'd also, Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd like to move that we go to an executive session for about 5 minutes to discuss a legal matter before we take a vote on this.
We'll call a 5-minute recess. Call the meeting back to order at 8:01. We have a motion on the floor to send item 7A back to the Planning Commission. Any other discussion?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I assume that the fees and all were paid at the time that the request for rezoning was submitted, so
That has been verified.
that I would think that there would be no additional cost to Mr. Potty for us going back to this process since the fee's already been paid one time.
That is correct, and the attorney recommended that earlier today. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Ask the city manager to put it on the docket for the planning commission.
Yes, sir. Just see to it that it gets on their agenda. Item 7B is discuss the tree harvesting test site in Bowie Park. We have our city arborist, Mike Berkeley.
Good evening. Thanks for having me this evening. And I want to point out right off the bat that it is Mike Berkeley with a B-E-R-K-L-E-Y. The way it's spelled on the agenda is like California, which probably has something to do with a ponytail.
I was going to say that, but I'm
Sorry for the error.
Well, if 2 E's are good, 3's got to be better.
2
right?
E's, 2 E's. And we're calling this tree harvesting site, and of course we know that the trees are not being harvested. And but I've visited the site since last summer about 7 times now, and 5 of those 7 times I've had some people with me, either some of the friends of the park. Keith has been with me 5 times, and I appreciate your patience, Keith, and driving me around. I've been there a couple of times by myself, and actually took a shovel in there, and I didn't want some of the park people to see me walking around with a shovel in my hand, being a native plant guy, you know. Well, you know how propagation works, but what I did is I went into the site, what we call the 3.2 acre site, and dug up some soil, and at the same time looked up and start to realize what's going to happen when these trees come down. There's been some concern about when those tops of those 80-foot loblolly pines come down, there's going to be some collateral damage, no doubt about it. But what do we do with the tops of those trees once they're down? In the letter that for the forest management plan, the pine thinning plan, of course we did pass the cut and drop method, and that's what we're going to do, and we're just going to leave the trees there. But we're also saying that the branches and limbs would be stripped away and burned. And after I've visited the site several times now, I don't think we even should go that far. You know, we hear about what happened back when Dr. Bowie had had all those pines planted, and tons of silt, of topsoil just washed away downstream. And I can understand that with the soil the way it is. It's a cherty soil, there's hardly any clay to it, it's not very stable soil. But that one thing that soil does do is there's compaction. It gives very freely. And I keep talking about compaction over and over again, is that we need to keep the heavy machinery out of that area. So therefore, there won't be any log removal out of that, because it will take a large machine to do that. And I'm also advocating that we do not remove the branches once the trees are dropped, because it will also cause some compaction. And I want to explain briefly, since I've been talking so much about compaction, I want to explain briefly what I know that's happening underneath that forest floor. And you got to forgive me, I've had some respiratory here lately, and I don't ordinarily talk this low. But as Mr. Hall told me earlier, I don't have a problem talking about this. But there is a living organism, a community, plant community that's underneath the ground there. And it's called mycorrhiza fungi. And it could be as 20 to 30 different species of fungi that occur there. And in a healthy eastern hardwood forest, that's what keeps those trees happy and alive. It's the reason we don't carry fertilizer to the forest and feed trees like we do in our own houses. And that's because of the mycorrhiza. Now, mycorrhiza, a living organism, has to have the three things that we have to have. And it's going to be food, which comes from decomposition of the forest floor, water, of course, and rainfall, and air. And then there's microscopic air pockets that's in that ground. And if we squeeze out those microscopic air pockets, the fungi will die. And since this has been under monoculture for ages, with the loblolly pines, we've already lost a lot of that mycorrhiza. So now we're talking about reverting with the Grow Fairview plan, reverting this over from a monoculture loblolly pine to eastern hardwood forest. The less impact we make on that ground, the better it's going to be, especially for the kids coming in and start planting those trees later on. I'll tell you one thing that does like that disturbance, and that's the invasive exotics. And I serve on the board of the Tennessee Exotic Pest Plant Council. And it's a nonprofit organization that recognizes and educates the problems we're having with invasive exotics. And one of the things that I've noticed when I first walked into that park was how clean, relatively clean it was as far as invasive exotics. A little bit of privet in a couple of areas. The dome used to have kudzu on it. But as far as other city parks, very clean, very pure. And we want to keep it that way. If we start disturbing too much in there, we're going to open up a whole new can of worms with the invasive exotics coming in. And then the Grow Fairview project, whether it's years and years and years in the making, will be for naught, because the invasive exotic, especially privet, will take over. So what I'm proposing is that we make a couple of changes on the original letter that says branches and limbs would be stripped away and burned, and I say we should not do that. And also in the area that was to be treated for invasive exotics, any coming in, it was to be disked, and I think disking the soil would be a terrible thing to do. I promote disking when I'm installing prairies, and that's on flat ground, no trees, no stumps, no roots, flat ground, and disking is important to cleanse and get rid of any invasive exotic plant before you put in prairies. But where we're proposing to put prairie grasses, it would not be conducive to something like that. And then also with this, I want to touch on a couple other things. So that's two things I'd like to see changed on the letter, on the management plan. We need to proceed. In the letter, it said that we're going to start planting the fall of 2013. It's January 2014. The trees are still up. There are about 160 trees sitting over in the park in 3-gallon, 7-gallon, and 15-gallon pots. Some of these are 6 to 7 feet tall. They're ready to be planted. They are not only of the species that historically occur in this park, but also of the genotype, which is what the Grow Fairview project was all about, is to actually collect seed off of this area and with the school kids, plant those back in for generations. I believe that we need to get with the logger, of whoever is going to be the logger, and work with him and systematically fell these trees in ways that we can work around planting the trees. I'm a big proponent of not planting like soldiers, like the Forest Service does. We're going to be naturalizing this. And this is not a landscape, it is a restoration. So it doesn't have to look perfect. With the 15-gallon trees, you're going to be digging a 2-foot by 2-foot hole. It takes my guys about 30 minutes to plant one of those trees. What I would say is that according to this, that the city was going to be spending the time and money to limb those trees. And I think instead is maybe that city can city employees be used to plant those trees instead. We're not going to have the trees from the schools ready till probably next year, but with these 160 trees, that makes an impact. And I think that is considering that as soon as you cross the dam, you're facing that 3.2 acre test plot. So anyway, I'm advocating that we go forward as soon as possible. This is a good planting time. We plant trees all through the winter in our business. And we do it because they're dormant. You can't hurt them. And when they bud break in the spring, they're rooting out at the same time. So planting them now or planting them in the fall doesn't matter. But we need to get started on this as soon as possible and then start working with the schools and with chance of having a greenhouse another greenhouse. Also, I want to touch on there has been some concerns about the prairie area and disking and reseeding that. I don't think that disking should be done in that prairie area. I think hydroseeding is the only way to go that keeps the disturbance down, and you can do that by tanker trucks. It sprays out 30, 40, 50 feet. We've used those before, and there's an outfit here in Fairview that actually does that, does prairie installation that way. And that's to keep the disturbance to a minimum. And in closing, I just wanted to say one other thing, and I wasn't sure I was going to say this or not, but back in last month, I got a letter from a concerned citizen about what I was going to say tonight, because I said the word change about the park. You know, I mean, I'm almost 60 years old with the ponytail. I'm going to have controversy following me the rest of my life, I guess. But this is the letter. Whether I agreed with the letter or not, it doesn't really matter. But what I got out of that letter was the passion that a lot of people have about this park, and it makes sense. This is a gift. It's a jewel. I'm glad she passed that on to the city. And this kind of passion, I think we can use that for getting this, you know, I was just telling John that this is history in the making. I don't know of any other place, and we've been working with parks and city, state, and federal level for years in our business, and I've never known any park to do any restoration, reforestation this way, where they are actually not only planting the trees that deserve to be there, the species, but using the local genotype, and to have the kids do it. And we're going to have, you know, maybe we're not going to see those trees in fruition, but some of those kids, when they get our age, are going to look up at that oak and say, you know, I planted that. So sooner we get started on that, I think the better it is. And this is something that was passed last year, and I think a lot of us will never forget the enthusiastic presentation that Dr. Oyer gave that evening about the Grow Fairview project. I'm very excited to be a part of it. Any questions?
Mike, I just got a couple of things, and it's just more for my education than anything else. That when they log these trees, how much of a stump will be left behind?
You know, and there's nothing in that letter that says anything about it. And I think what we need to do, you know, you can leave some pretty high snags. I have had trees taken down and purposely left high stumps for the woodpeckers. And you know, that's one of the things, one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing there is for habitat. It's restoration for habitat as well. But, you know, to go in there for safety reasons, for those kids coming in later, close to the ground is what I would recommend.
I'd like to see you include some sort of recommendation for that, how long that would be. And just, you know, there's an aesthetic part of this that had to do with taking the logs in, taking the logs out. And I'm fully supportive of your recommendation, just let them fall. How long is those average trees gonna lay there in that state before, when you look out into the woods, you're not gonna see a bunch of trees lying around?
Right.
25 years?
20 years.
20 years?
This same thing happened up on the Cumberland Plateau. It was total pine devastation of the shortleaf pine from the pine beetle. And I remember going to Big South Fork recreation area, and there were warnings at the sign, at the trailheads, watch for deadfalls, because they were just everywhere. And you can go up there now, and this has been 20 years, you can go up there now and hardly see anything's happened. So nature has its way of taking care of it. But, you know, and speaking of aesthetics, this will not be pretty. It'll be a long time before it's pretty. We're used to seeing this beautiful evergreen stand, acres and acres of evergreen throughout the park. And now we know that's not a healthy forest. It'll be years before it's come back.
I just wanted to get that on the record, because that was my understanding, is it's not gonna be very pretty for a long time.
No.
And then people come along and say, well, maybe that wasn't a good idea, but what you shared with us is a very sound, you know, ecological way to go about it and to take care of it. I just wanted people to understand that.
One of the things that Keith and I brought up is that we're going to have to educate the public about it. We need interpretive signage out there at that plot, because like I said, it's right across the dam. I mean, everybody that hikes back through there, walks their dog back through there, they're going to walk right by this, and they're going to say, what in the world is going on here? And we need to have signage out there that and explains this is, again, history in the making.
That's all I had.
Yes.
I've got a question for you about, you know, when we first started talking about this, some of it came up because of the beetle that's supposed to be here. When they expect it to start, you know, some devastation? 2 years, 5 years?
I would say longer than that. I
7?
I don't see it. I don't see it.
What kind of devastation you think it's going to incur? I've heard a lot.
Total. It will wipe out all the ponds.
All
and not
loblollies.
just loblollies. It was the uniqueness of what happened on the Cumberland Plateau is that it was monoculture up there, but that was a naturally occurring pond. Loblollies, of course, are not.
They're not indigenous.
They're not native.
There,
They're
yeah.
not indigenous here. And that may be a good thing, but my biggest fear, again, by serving on the TNEPSI board, is that if we wiped everything out and we did not have, even if we had the financial set to fix it, the physical, I don't see how it could happen, the timeline couldn't happen, is that if it completely wiped us out, okay, it will be total invasive exotics coming in here. And we've lost the eastern hardwood forest. And the park being, if we're saying the park is not a pristine eastern hardwood forest now, it won't look anything like a native forest at all. No loblolly pines and no hardwoods, because that's how aggressive these invasive exotics are. But I don't see it happening. And you know, we get a hard winter like this, and any boring insect, that's a good thing. They were talking about the emerald ash borer coming in from the north, and a lot of us are very concerned about ash trees. That's a predominant species up on this Highland Rim. And they're saying, oh, this is a good thing, because now we can nature is killing back this invasive insect that's killing our ash trees. So, anyone else?
Any other questions?
What action do we need to take?
None whatsoever, the way I understand it.
Do we need to change the wording on anything as far as the limbs go?
The thing that I've had all along was safety factor for the kids to come in and plant the trees, plus the fact that if you go in and chip all of them, then it's not only dangerous to the children, but it'd be dangerous to our employees dragging all these limbs out. We got to come over top of trees and everything else. So it's been a safety factor for me in trying to advise y'all the right way to advise me which way to go. And basically tonight it's just on from Mr. Berkeley's discussion to y'all, and you can put it on another agenda to go forward with it or whatever.
We just need to make a motion to adopt the arborist recommendations and move forward?
Well, we've already done that. I think he just needs to include that.
Or for him to make his modifications?
I'm not sure whether we can truthfully make a motion tonight since it's on here just for discussion purposes. Could you advise us on that, Larry? I'm certain that Mr. Berkeley
You'd have to
can
put
just-
it back on for action because it just says discuss it. There's nothing, no take
Put it back
action.
on first meeting, February.
But it's already been approved.
It's already
So,
approved.
I'll,
He can just add it to his letter and we can move forward.
so you can give it to city manager
Okay.
and take his recommendations and move forward without it having to come again.
Okay.
Is that
I agree.
correct?
I agree.
Yesterday seemed like
Thank you, Mike.
too soon.
Thank you, sir.
What's do we have a deadline of when,
I've got the estimate already, and y'all have approved that estimate to go forward with the drop and cut and drop. So all I got to do is contact the logger and, go forward.
okay, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Item 7C under old business is discuss and or take action on the fire truck loan documents. Mr. Doherty.
Did everybody receive a copy of the contract proposal sent by Ms. Johnson? Looks like everything is how they said it would be, 2.3%, 5 years. I think, if there are any questions, like I said,
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Mr. Sutton?
City Attorney, have you looked this document over?
Yes, sir, I have.
Any problems or anything misnomers about it?
No, sir, the only problem, this was the same organization we worked with on a previous one, and they took out most of the things that I had problems with before. For this one, the only thing we had was some indemnification language, and I included that in my opinion letter. I just didn't want them to be able to come back on us and say, well, you knew this, you didn't tell us. I would ask, and Mr. Doherty can correct me if I'm wrong, I would ask that the board direct him whether you want to do insurance or you want to be self-insured, because he'll need to know that. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
You want to present that to us about self-insurance or by insurance?
Yes, I'll have to fill out a form that says that we self-insured last time. I believe we filled it out. Correct me if I'm wrong, self-insurance?
It was, and the board directed him to go the self-insured route. The board needs to give him direction, though, so he's not out there on his own.
Okay. Like to amend the
I would
motion?
amend my motion to include that we be self-insured.
Second.
We have a motion and second on the amendment. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment passes. The original motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Item 8A, new business, discuss and or take action on securing tablets for the Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Basile.
In looking at ways that we're probably spending money that we could hopefully have a better place to spend it, many of us have had some experience with tablets, which seems to become the other way. Nick, would you mind coming up? I had a conversation with Nick, our IT technician, about this, and Mr. Day is going to kind of tell us about it. I didn't give him very much time, so he doesn't have a package for us yet. But what I'd like to authorize him to do is to go out and put together a couple of packages that would, excuse me, basically eliminate this paper. We would all have tablets. We would be able to have access to old minutes, old meeting videos, all of that at the touch of a finger. If there was something that wanted to be distributed, it could be distributed immediately, even during the meeting. If we wanted a copy of something or whatever, we could research it. And the cost, I think we would save enough on paper the first year to pay for the cost. The equipment is fairly reasonable. But Nick, would you kind of talk a little bit about what we talked about, please, sir? Thank you. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
You're fine. Actually, Commissioner Bassell actually explained everything. I'm just going to try to get together a couple tablets or a couple price plans that we can go through. And there's going to be we can go a cheap route. We can go a completely free route, but it's not going to be the best route. We can also go all the way up to $529 per tablet. And that would be the route I would recommend, just being into technology and actually playing with it and using it. The way y'all be using it, you'd want to go with the better one, because you would want the information at your fingertip. And I could set up a Dropbox account for you guys, and y'all can be able to pretty much eliminate paper. Just whatever y'all want to put in that Dropbox, you could load up the app and view whatever any of y'all load up on it.
So having said that, I'd like to make a motion that we ask the city manager to ask Nick as the IT technician to put together a package for us to review for cost and possible implementation sometime this fiscal year as our funds allow us to do that.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Have a motion, a second. Commissioner Sutton?
I'd just like to make sure that when we do that study, that we'd also look back and see what the total savings would be on that. I personally have a linen closet that is packed with these packages. Right. We were talking about trees earlier. There's no telling how many we would have saved by now. Probably could have another Bowie Park over here. I don't know. But it's also the cost savings for the police department to have to deliver them to our homes, make sure we get them in a timely manner. There's some mailing involved in it. I got one 3-page document the other day that was like $14. If you multiply that times 5, it doesn't take long to add up to see the savings that it would incur with this, be economical cost saving, and put us on a green motion to eliminate, because it's ridiculous the amount of paperwork that we have, and that would also save the time for generating that paperwork, and copying and everything else that goes onto it. So I'm all for it, but I would like to ask you to do that. When you ask them to just get with Brandy, whoever does that, and give us a cost savings effect, so we can honestly say it's actually saving us money.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Nick.
Item 8B, discuss and/or take action on City of Fairview personnel policy concerning minimum education requirements for employment. Commissioner Bassell.
Yes, sir. I think we're all fairly aware that we've had some discussion and or discrepancies about our personnel and policy manual. And though it implies certain things, it does not specifically state in there that someone must have a high school education in order to work for the city. So I would like to make the motion that we ask the city manager to change the policy, personnel policy concerning minimum educational requirements to indicate that in order to work for the city of Fairview, specifically state, in order to work for the city of Fairview, you must have a high school diploma from an accredited institution or a GED.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
A little bit of discussion. This will not affect, well, I'm assuming that everybody that works for us now has a high school education or GED. Is that correct?
Well, it wouldn't be retroactive. It would
Okay,
only
so
be for-
if anything that's here already would be grandfathered in, I'm not godfather. I've been watching too much TV.
Yes, it would not affect you, it would only from.
I like
from
that
this
show
point
too,
forward.
yeah. So that's the only I didn't want to be detrimental to anybody that's already working.
I didn't want to do anything.
Okay.
Commissioner Carroll?
I just don't see that it's necessary. You have the ability to change the policies. I don't know why we need to direct him, because the way our charter is written, my understanding, it's up to him. He can change the manuals for the hiring process. I mean, if y'all feel it necessary to recommend this, I'm okay with it. I just, really don't see why it's necessary. We have no say-so in the hiring and firing process. It's the way our charter is written. And so I don't see why it would be now necessary for us to tell you how to do it.
Is there
The
any-
policies and procedures manual is approved by this board,
Okay?
by ordinance.
So even though, like, when Mr. Hyatt made changes to the handbook and stuff like that, it has to go back in front of us?
The
And did
policies
it?
and procedures manual was originally approved by the board, and any changes, I won't say any change, there may be some in there that is inherent within the policies and procedures manual. In other words, the hiring and firing by the city manager is statutory. Board can't change that, but the policies and procedures manual was approved by the board, and if you're gonna make, an education change and have it in the policies and procedures manual, then it would have to be, the change made and approved by the board.
Okay, so when they updated all the job descriptions and all that, that typically hasn't come in front of us. So that's different.
They're probably not in the policies and procedures manual. If they are, it should come before this board.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item 8C is discuss and or take action on trading the current dump truck for a smaller dump truck. City Manager Hall.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Board of Commissioners. As y'all well know, this piece of equipment has been here for a little over 3 years now. It's not been very serviceable, especially with the size of our streets, as large as this truck is. If you've had a chance to read, Keith made an awful good presentation in this letter. It's actually a piece of equipment that's only had 3,000 miles put on it in the total of 3 years. And the only time that I've actually seen it used was in a collapsed road part that we actually used that for hauling away gravel and dirt from that collapsed area. And other than that, I haven't seen it used at all since. It sits out there in the garage, and it's a very impressive truck. But as far as the use of it, we don't get a whole lot of use of it. I have talked to Mid-10 Ford. They're the ones that it was purchased from originally. And it's only got 5,500 miles on it now. So what I'd like to do, I've got a price, a difference price on a brand new truck. Even though it's a 2011 model, it's only got 400 miles on it. It's four-wheel drive, it's a smaller dump truck, and for $7,500, I can make that trade. The reason that I understand that it's within my authority, but this is an asset to the city, and y'all have to give me the approval to do so. And this will also free us up to have two salt trucks on the road at the same time.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to second. Any discussion?
Where's the money gonna come from?
We actually, in the street aid fund, which is a line item, we still have $17,000 left in there, and and it's used for street aid equipment. So it can actually come from the street aid account.
So basically, the recommendation is the size of the truck is not working for what you,
No, it's
Name.
actually so large that when you get on these streets, we can't even use the snow plow on it because it can't go down through there. And when we try to use it on the streets, it's so far out in the road that we have to have a flashing truck in order for other people to get around, you know, so it's just, and it doesn't have the power. It's done got stuck several times when it was being used. It doesn't have four-wheel drive, and it doesn't have the power that this new truck will have.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Yay.
Motion passes. Item 9, city manager items for discussion. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Tonight, I don't have anything at this present time. Thank you.
Okay. Staff comments? Anyone from staff?
We ended this month with property taxes. Did go up in December, highlighted by the property taxes. We're at 52% of what we're expecting to bring in on property taxes. So that was a big jump. Overall, revenues exceeded expenditures 2-to-1. So I was really glad to see that. But we're still lagging in revenues. So far 42%, and through my research, I believe as Walmart revenues start coming in, those should start closing the gap. I believe some of the earlier budget predictions were considering Walmart opening sooner. So I think that is the reason for the sales tax discrepancy. As far as any questions on revenues?
So there's hope.
We were pretty busy in December.
I'm sorry, Tom. Our billable out, we've collected $568,000 worth of property tax, and if I remember correctly, our billable out is somewhere around 1.1 million or 1.2 million. Is that correct?
That is what the budget shows. I was talking.
We're not even 50% collected per se, or right around 50% collected of our.
Right at 52. I believe unrealized was 529,490.
So even if we still got a little time before the Walmart sales tax revenue starts to show, we've still got a pretty sizable amount of property tax that'll come floating in here in January and February.
Yes.
Okay. That's our revenue projection too.
Yes. I'm still looking into our business tax. I know that a lot of those are timely. I'm not 100% sure, but that number is a concern to me as well, the 30% there. Any other questions on revenues?
I've got something I'd like for you to check on if you can. I've had
Okay.
the question presented to me several times, especially by the Chamber of Commerce, that the county actually collects a large amount of money, millions of dollars from the hotel motel taxes. And I believe that some other cities in different, I think Rutherford County, or there's a couple more counties that actually share that with the individual cities. I'd like to find out if that's doable for us, because to my knowledge, the county doesn't share it with any of those cities.
Okay.
If that would be appropriate to do, because they collect the whole thing from everybody. If you could, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. I've heard about it. I would look into that.
And you know how much money we've made from Walmart in the last 2 days?
I'm still working on getting a Walmart card.
I know they made something, because I was able to make the first purchase, so I know they made, I think, about 12 cents off me. I don't know.
I had a buggy. My wife, I had a list. Kim gave me. So we got very educated on property taxes. That in December. It was fun to watch everybody work. Okay, on expenses. Overall, we're at 55% of our target of 50%. Several of the discrepancies are early payments, property and liability insurance was pretty much all paid up front, and then we've also had some outlays that need to be, as far as street improvement, other improvements that were approved that have not been shown in the budget. So those are going to need to be addressed. But most of the departments are right on track. I guess pretty much, if you look at, well, I did see one discrepancy in the finance department with, we're working with Blue Cross Blue Shield on the HRAs, and I'm a little concerned with the HRA payments, but I'm going to talk with Blue Cross Blue Shield about that in the next week and see if, I was talking to the people at benefits, and he said that this time of year it's always a little higher and it should be cycling down, but I asked him, I said that is a concern of mine. We're getting close to our annual budget. So any questions on expenses? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Move on to city attorney comments.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The only additional comment I have is just a information statement for the board. Several months ago, the city of Fairview was not named as a defendant, but an inmate of the Williamson County jail filed a federal lawsuit alleging, among several things, alleging that he was being held illegally, that he was being treated badly, that the jail was dirty, just a laundry list of stuff. And he was later joined in that by another inmate. And I apologize, I meant to bring that with me. I don't recall the gentleman's name. The reason that the city was even included on the information list, and we never were sued, thank goodness, but one of the people that was a former police officer in the city of Fairview, and Commissioner Sutton, I'm sure, is familiar with this lawsuit, but he sued the sheriff's department, sued the jailhouse, sued the workhouse, sued the workhouse staff, and a couple of days ago, the federal judge in the Middle District of Tennessee in Nashville granted an order dismissing the lawsuit for failure to state a claim upon which relief could be granted. I thought a couple of points in there that was interesting was the judge made a rather extensive statement about the fact that you can't sue a jailhouse, you can't sue the workhouse, that they're not entities that are capable of being sued. He said if you stretch it far enough, you could have named the county, he could have sued the county saying that they were responsible for this, but you've got to allege something, a violation, and apparently no violations were listed, so the judge granted the dismissal for failure to state a claim, and I just wanted to put that out for information to the board. Although the city was not, as I said, named a defendant, it did have a connection to the suit. That's all I have, Mr. Vice Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Communication from the mayor and commissioners. Commissioner Basell.
Nothing tonight, Vice Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Carroll.
Yes, thank you. I just want to give a couple clarifications. First of all, to Mr. Hall with the truck, it's not that I don't believe your recommendation is, a valid, you have a need. It's just more about timing. Even though you say you have the money to cover it, it's still a real concern to me about where we are in our budget and how we're spending our money. So that was my only concern, why. And even with the iPads, I know a lot of cities have them, and there's It's real advantages for the commissioners to have everything at their finger points, but also I don't think we're in the state to buy, but since you preface it when we get the money, you know, the research wouldn't hurt to go ahead and do. You know, some of the times when you have these meetings and you're taking loans out for fire trucks, even though it was, you know, decided on a long time ago, but now it's time, push comes to shove, you have to do this. And we have a big budget this year, banked a little bit on Walmart, and it's all going to be okay, but it is that time. We probably made Mr. Daugherty a little nervous coming in when he did right before tax money, and it, tell you the truth, makes me nervous. So, but it is how the government budget works, and our money does come from taxes and property taxes. So, thank you for coming out. Appreciate everybody's phone calls and concerns, and you know, I just encourage you to keep being involved and pay attention to what's going on. So excited, Mr. Berkeley. I mean, just seeing that go forward and having your opinion. Sometimes the hardest thing is in government, things are really slow, and we talk about things a whole lot, and sometimes it's painful to watch. But in essence, it is for us too, especially when you want to see something happen. But I do think this is going to be in the good of our community, and I'm glad we're all at a place that we can see this happen, and then just how exciting it is to actually get the kids involved and invest in the future of Fairview, and I'm thrilled about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sutton?
Just a couple of things. I too am excited about Walmart, although the other night when my wife came out and told me how much she spent, I was a little distraught, but albeit, it's better than driving 50 miles to get the same results. So I am excited for the savings and the jobs and the tax relief it's going to offer us at the same time. So make sure we go out there and buy what you need to buy. All the places in Fairview, if we bought everything we needed in the city of Fairview that's available to us, every business here would be successful, without a doubt. As many people live here, as much as we buy, and we're getting close to being self-sufficient on the materials and needs that we have in the city. With the growth we're going to have, we're going to see even more of this. So make sure, large or small, make sure you still support these people. I've got two brief comments on the citizen comments. I want to thank Ms. Brooks for standing up and give us her opinion. But I do want to correct the timetable on that. The timetable was, the first question about the property was asked in August. A month and a half later, after that question, was when the articles in the newspaper came out. It wasn't the other way around. That was the correct way to, and I've been questioned and answered that many, many times, and apparently it's not getting out there that that's the way the events happen, not the other way around. And I just want to make sure that that was clear. Mr. Cawthorn, and I know he's home listening. He's probably home trying to watch the ball game and listen at the same time, knowing him. We're going to always look for the right thing to do, and if there's a problem on something, and if it's our fault, we want to fix it. Not going to turn a blind eye to it, not going to look away, not going to put the blame on somebody else. But if there's a problem with something, the people in the subdivisions, example in this over here, they deserve to have their public notice so that they can stand up and speak just like we did tonight and voice their opinions about something. And they weren't given the opportunity to do that. We failed to do that, okay? Whether somebody else should have caught it, brought it back up, I don't know, but it was caught and it is brought back up, and we are going to do it the right way. But everybody out there deserves the same opportunity to stand up and speak about what they believe in those subdivisions. And I think what we've done tonight will correct that matter in that subdivision out there. But I want to thank everybody for coming out, and I appreciate it. Thank you. It's all that.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Brooks, we definitely don't want you to feel nervous when you come to that podium. We want you to realize that we won't, and I'll speak for the whole board on this, and I know I probably shouldn't do that, but we are approachable. We want you to feel like you can call us on the telephone, you can email us, you can set up a time, and we'll sit down and talk with you one-on-one if that's what you want. we want everyone to understand that. We have several openings on various boards that have been created with people's terms expiring and people who have resigned their seats. And we want the citizens to know that they can go to the city website and apply for all those. There's no deadline on those. We are taking those applications all the time. And with that being said, I'm going to read a letter that was given to the city manager and addressed to the mayor. Dear Miss Mayor, as I enter the new year of 2014, I have to pause and reflect on the past and focus on the future, which includes obligations, commitments, schedules, and conflicts. Once I identified these, I had to categorize them into priorities, which will all be part of my life and my family for the future. Based on the results, it is with regret that I inform you that effective January 31st, 2014, I hereby resign from the positions that I hold in the City of Fairview Planning Commission, Park Board, and the Industrial Development Board. Sincerely, Robert Benson. So there is another series of openings on various boards that we welcome people to apply for. And we need good people like Mr. Benson that has served our city for several years, and we're always looking for new people that are willing to do that. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.